I think we should skip this next team, but we
What
can't
team?
because it's vibes. We're talking about FC Dallas, eliminated on the 5th of October. We really should skip over this team because it may be our worst podcast curse of all time. Connor, can you guess where we predicted this team to finish last at the beginning of the season?
I don't want to talk about it. I had just far too much faith in this team this season.
We both put them in second in the West.
Dude,
Second.
forget that. I had second in the West. I had the MVP coming from this team. I had the I think goalkeeper of the year coming from this team.
This
We
is
really
so
we
bad.
cursed the hell out of this team.
This is so bad. As a sorry to the Dallas supporters, we're just gonna get into what went wrong. Say it was a curse. Predict that you finish dead last in 2025 so that you can win the treble. Sound good? Great. Or let's just go through it here. I'll just talk about, again, mine are relatively quick here because I cannot believe how bad we cursed them. Um, Injury strike, right? Giovanni Jesus, ACL, done for the year. Paxton Pomykal, knee surgery, done for the year. Liam Frazier, groin injury, 16 games. Martin Paes missed a few games late in the year. Velasco still coming back, missed most of the year. Jesus Ferreira missed a third of the year. Areola injuries all throughout the year. Like a team that was so beat up last year, and what played into our predictions of them being so high was like they're getting all of their players back. They're so set. They're going to get all this attacking firepower. They added Pitar Musa around this group of like super young, exciting attackers, and then they all get hurt again, which is never easy. So a team that was so beat up last year, we thought they'd finally return healthy and ready to compete. We are wrong. We are sorry for the curse. That is clearly our fault. It won't happen again.
No, don't wait. Don't worry, Dallas. Next year we're coming back just as strong. You're going right back to the top of the table. All right.
Number one.
Number one. That's the problem. We didn't say number one. We said number two. We got to
That's right.
fully back them. Next year, number one, they're gonna they're gonna get relegated. They're somehow gonna manage to get relegated. That's gonna curse this team out of existence. We got to go back to pretending they don't exist.
That's exactly it. When we didn't know about them, they were fine.
Yeah, mine's somewhat similar vein. I had talked about lack of playmaking on the team. So the team combined for 29.1 XAG or expected assisted goals, which was the sixth lowest in the entire league. Despite that, you still had a striker who scored 15 goals on 9.8 XG. That feels like a massive waste of Moose's abilities because if you paired him with a Carl Heel or a Ricky Puig, he'd probably bag 20 goals at the minimum and have Dallas in the playoffs. So the leading assister and the leader in XAG on this team was Sebastian Lletget, who isn't a bad player, but I don't think should be your primary playmaker. Yeah, get him back in the USMNT
Well,
team.
that's what I'm saying. Like at this point, we're talking about players who are on the bench in Europe versus players who are performing in MLS. It may be different. So all I'm saying is, I know he's still got a number on the USMNT roster.
I
Just
hope you're
give it right
listening,
back to him.
Poch. I hope you're
Potch,
listening.
I know he is. I know he is. Potch, do what's right. Give the world what they need, and put Sebastian Lletget back in the USMNT kit. That's all I'm asking. It's not that hard.
Agreed. Agreed. And while the team still scored a decent amount of goals, I think there was still more to be had, and a few more goals could have landed this team in a playoff spot, or at least in a play-in spot. But now, some of this is, as you mentioned, it's not totally Dallas's fault, considering how many injuries they had this season, especially to some of their key attacking playmakers like Paxton Pomykal and Velasco, who missed. I mean, I think they combined had 320 minutes in the entire season, so that is a huge detriment. It's not like there's not playmaking talent on this roster. They got into a kind of a tough situation, but I think there is more to be had in the attack with how good Musa was with what they had available.
Yeah, I will. I'll build off of that because I had underperforming attackers as one of mine as well. Outside of Pitar Musa, who was pretty good, this group was really bad. Right, the next highest scorer in your team was a super draft pick, who I love. I think is going to have a really bright future. He's going to be one of those, good super draft attackers. It's going to have a good future. But coming off a season where you had legit contributions from guys like Obrian, Camungo, Velasco, and Ferreira, none of them contributed, and Obrian was sent off to an in-state rival. It's a common theme in this series and in this game. If you don't score and put the ball in between the sticks, you don't win very much. And Dallas did not do a lot of that, so they didn't win a lot, and now they're not in the playoffs.
This is the analysis we pay for.
What I'm here for. That's what I get my. That's why I pay thousands of dollars for my coaching licenses for. That's what they're for.
All right. So my next one here is a lack of center back talent. And I think
Nice.
so their current center back department consists of Nkosi, Ibiaga, Corca, and Omar Gonzalez. Let's just be honest, that center back depth chart stinks. It's not like they've had sales or injuries to key defenders either that forced them into this depth chart. This is how it looked going into the season. And they thought it would be good enough. Well, newsflash, Dallas. You conceded 55 goals and you missed the playoffs, most likely from the defense. And I like what they have at the outside back position, but they really, in my opinion, need an overhaul at center back heading into next year. Whether that's from new signings or academy players, I just think they need something new there.
Yeah, that all around was poor, and mine kind of builds off of that too, and it's lack of depth, right? The other part of this team that we underestimated was how not deep they were. They found decent depth in Logan Farrington. Kamungo regressed back to the mean, 0 goals in 5 assists, right? This dude is supposed to be the breakout star of 2024, and he was just average, right? The rest of the Velasco depth after he was hurt were all youth players. Paxton went down. They only had, you guessed it, unproven youth players in the midfield and USMNT future GOAT Sebastian Lletget. Center back remained really thin with 2 reliable options back there, and the rest were nah. And it just didn't have a team of impact performers that you would need to actually be a top 2 team in the West. So once again, we are sorry.
Don't worry though. Next year, Dallas, number one. You're going to the top of
Number
the table.
one.
Everybody's going to come back healthy. Number one.
Oh man, a
So
team that.
my oh, I still have one more. Excuse
Oh, do
me.
you?
Player roll.
Whoa.
My last point for Dallas is no show on the road. FC
Yes.
Dallas was the worst team in the entire league on the road this season. That is even worse than that god awful San Jose team. They had 1 win, 6 draws, and 10 losses on the road this year, meaning that they got less than 10 points over the entire season on the road this year. Their home form is good enough to land them in a comfortable playoff seed, like 5 seed in the playoffs. But they were so bad on the road that they went from a comfortable playoff seed to completely missing out on the playoffs. They need to find ways to get results on away days, or they will simply not make the playoffs, almost regardless of how good they are at home.
Can't argue with that. If you're not winning games, you're not making the playoffs. But if you're not playing well on the road, you're definitely not making it. I want to find. I've been telling myself I need to do this, but I want to go in and be like, what is the average number of road wins you need to be like generally in the playoff picture? And I feel like it was like 3 or 4 on average. But
Yeah.
even then,
Okay.
that's like the low end. That's like the low end. And
Mhm.
2-1 wins on the road is not good enough. And
No.
even if that is like for whatever reason, like you go undefeated at home and you just get murdered on the road, like you're not getting yourself a home playoff games. You might as well just give up because you're gonna get killed in the
Yeah,
away
that's true.
games anyway.
That's true.
Um, so